Okay. I want to elaborate on something I'm trying to make a point of in the chat last night on in the Inquisition, but things you're limited rather heavily by the fact that it's a chat, and you get really heavily limited on the characters unless you spend like $20, and I can't do that. So, something the script doctor pointed out in the Midnight Says chat today, earlier this afternoon. Any franchise can be saved with good writing, and I think also a receptive audience. So that being said, yeah. Now, when I said, Star Trek, Star Wars, Doctor Who, they're the three big ones. They can be saved. That's not saying everything's going to go back to normal and that the damage that has been done can be repaired. No, that's gone. That's not coming back. At best, we can get back to a level where it's like just before the normies came in and tried to be all geeky themselves. It'll be back to us hardcores. So, in comics, they've sucked before. So it's not that. The only thing is the industry that's been built up is kind of screwed. That may never come back, at least not in the way it was before, unless the marketplace changes radically. But sticking strictly to TV and movies, no. Star Trek, the groundwork's already laid there by the people who need to be replaced, ironically enough. Alternate timeline. That's what JJ did to justify his thing. And Kurtzman and his supreme idiocy followed the same through. Well, guess what? You also be relegated to an alternate timeline. I don't care how much happy talking. Oh, it's Prime. Yeah, well, guess what? Because of this word parsing, Prime doesn't necessarily mean canon, does it? There sure is no way in hell those uniforms or those ships or that technology level can be justified in fitting in between the cage and where no man has gone before. Like I said, we're not talking a prequel. We're talking something technically happening during the original series. If you consider the first episode of The Cage, second episode where no man's gone before, we're fitting right in the middle of the original series, that period of the original series. Don't fit. And you can't just say visual reboot, everything's the same. No. Visually is the same. Let's put this. If the Enterprise was the same size as it is on the original series, no, then we might be able to squeak by that. I don't think you'd be able to pull it off, but whether it's like about half again as big as the original show, no. You just blew it right there. So give me that half. Oh, say it's Prime. No, they can say all they want. They have to prove it too, okay? Since they're not the ones who are setting canon in the first damn place, they don't have a lot of say in overthrowing it. So, no. As much as I like Triangulum audio stuff, figured the Discovery Enterprise is not the original Enterprise. There's no way you can make it so, you can justify it. Saying it is, don't make it so. Okay? So, that one, just make it official. It's an alternate timeline. In fact, just say this is the Prime timeline that the JJ verse offshot from. This is what it was like, before the Arvada came back and whatever, But this is the timeline that branched off from. Never had anything to do with the canon timeline. If you really have to, you could probably stretch it back to the temporal Cold War and have it branch off from there. So you're still another 100 years back. Have all the fun no more you want with that one. But that's how you fix Star Trek. Now again, will they do it? Not anytime soon. Not until they get rid of Kurtzman. Because all these fixes cannot be done with the people who are currently in charge. It does require a change in the leadership of these various franchises. But with Star Trek, it's already the pieces are in place right there. So that's relatively easy. It still means you still got a lot of bad blood here, with good reason. The supposedly new fans they've got are fair weather idiots who would go with whatever's trendy this week. They'll flit off like the social butterflies they are somewhere else. Guess who's left? All us hardcores who are pissed off at you. but also once you deliver a good product, we're your biggest defenders too. So you listening, Sherry Redstone? There's a reason why Roddenberry sucked up to us all those years. Okay. Because Trekkies are known as the most devoted fans in all of entertainment, but also probably the most critical. We can be your best friend or your worst enemy. You pick. Next on that list, I think. Well, actually, because Star Wars. That one, it's a broader fan base, but not necessarily as deep in a lot of cases. Because it's a little more accessible to the great unwashed type thing. And we go, oh, I like Star Wars because there's no lot of deep thinking going on there. You got some pretty broad subjects on spirituality and nature stuff, but it doesn't really delve a whole lot in there. And also, unlike Star Trek, they keep saying, it's a great no, Star Trek was not a great sprawling saga, JJ. It never was. The fact that you even said that statement shows you have no clue what you were doing. Star Wars is. At least it was. I don't know what the hell it is now. Star Wars probably requires the most radical change. Basically, totally disavowing the last 3 movies. Probably throwing out Solo already too, because that thing's probably problematic with what it does to the character. But the sequel trilogy especially, gone. And that one, again, the precedent's already there, because George has already shown him to be willing to totally revise things with the tinkering with the original trilogy. So this is even simpler. Just nope, they're out, they're gone, and also following Disney's lead of just totally dumping the EU. Now, truth be told, the canonicity of the EU was always overstated anyway, because George never felt bound by the EU. If he had a story to tell, he doesn't worry about what they said in an issue of a Dark Horse comic, 10 years earlier. Or certainly never saw that bunny guy from the Marvel comics. So no, there's not that big in you. But they're already starting to sneak in some of the EU stuff. We were hoping they don't touch Mara Jade, because we still like Mara Jade, okay? You're going to see Jessica Chastain play her. That'd be fun. But yeah, with the Star Wars situation, just totally disavow it. Do another sequel trilogy. This time a little more in line with what Lucas wanted to do. Because I think they did, about the wills and stuff, I think they did touch on that with some of the Clone Wars stuff. I'll have to check it out. I'm downloading stuff now. I'm going to do some serious binge watching of that stuff. But that one, it's like, yeah, and again, it will probably never reach the same height they did before, because you cheesed off a lot of people with the moves you people have done with Kathleen Kennedy. And again, until she is gone and her loyalists are gone, purge that writer's room entirely. Anybody she brought in is going to be suspect, and have to go through a nice little debriefing process. How loyal are you to George Lucas and his version of Star Wars? If they're one of the idiots who want to upend everything because the cause, gone. Turning your badge at the front gate, you're not coming back. And basically, it's going to be once Jon Favreau and Dave Filoni have full control of the thing. Yeah, that's when we can start rebuilding. And again, that would be not only people who know what they're doing, but also in the case a receptive audience, because all the hardcores know who Dave Filoni is, and certainly know who Jon Favreau is. Because nobody's a fan of just one thing, okay? Everyone likes to talk about Star Wars fans and Star Trek fans. Mostly they're the same damn people, okay? Let's just stab this myth in the heart right now, okay? Nobody's a fan of one franchise, for Christ's sakes, okay?
I remember when Favreau was an actor.
Yeah, he's still acting. He still shows up and he still plays Happy Hogan in the movies.
Deep Impact. That's the first thing I remember in it.
Yeah, well, he goes back away, but he still acts in these things, okay? But the thing is, he is, because of what he did with Iron Man in the Marvel Universe, he's still very well respected. And this carries over, Whatever marketing department whiz kid is trying to be, we got Star Wars fans. They don't know comics. Bull, okay?
Didn't he do the first episode of Young Sheldon?
Yes, I think he was an executive producer and also director of that one. And he also directed Orville.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah. So, Favreau will be fan approved. Okay, yes. Putting him in charge and Filoni, the two of them together, and you'd get this thing back on track. But it would have to be like they're in full control. In which case, they'd all, and think in effect, George Lucas would be back in control too, because they'd be talking to him every day, even if it's not official. He'd be like, well, let's consider that. George, yeah, what do you think of this? You know, put him on speaker. You know, well, I thought the way I pictured it back in '75. You know, yeah, but that's how Star Wars gets back on track. Again, not gonna happen until Kennedy and the rest of them are gone. Okay.
Yeah, one of the first people I chuck out the door is Leslie.
Let me finish this.
Oh, I'm just.
I know. I don't need a peanut gallery now. Okay.
Oh,
Okay. So that's Star Wars, that's Star Trek, and Doctor Who. This is probably the most likely to happen because the BBC is a little too dependent upon Doctor Who being a success. However, they may still be embarrassed by this show. I mean, they've kind of gotten over that. I mean, used to be they were openly embarrassed of Doctor Who. Now they just kind of cloak it. Oh, it's one of the crown jewels of our franchise, but there's still a cheesy little kid show in their eyes. And it's going to be the same old thing of new showrunner, new doctor, and new crop of writers. How you deal with the wholesale slaughter of the backstory of the Doctor, it's the only way out is the cheesiest one of all: the Master lied, or just the Master was wrong. Now, if you just want to sweep under the rug and say he lied, you're Hartnell was the first incarnation. Get over yourself, Doctor, and move on to the next thing. Or if you want to go ahead and build a story arc of why did the Master think this way, and you want to go off of that, that's another issue entirely. Give that to Moffat and have a field day with it. But either way, it just basically you just got to do the whole. It's the only way out for that is just saying no, that didn't happen. He lied. He was wrong. Okay. Gallifrey is perfectly fine. We don't know what the hell you were looking at, but that wasn't Gallifrey. You know. But it's also like, well, if the Master could concoct all this, he could certainly concoct a simulation of a ruined Gallifrey. Come on. You know. But it's also a case of, the wholesale damage will remain, and again, all the flighty people who showed up, oh, the Doctor's so dreamy, and they're gone anyway. Because those are all the girls that showed up because the Doctor's cute. They ain't sticking around for Jodie, okay? I mean, what few lesbian fans among that girl were biased, okay, maybe, but, the vast majority, they're gone, okay? And sing the praise I want. The writing has been horrible. Most people, the writing has been horrible for this Doctor, okay? And I think that was what Stephen Moffat was demonstrating with his short stories. Yeah, you can write for this Doctor and make it work. Here's how. You got to approach it a little differently. But again, you got to get Chibnall out of there. Not necessarily Jodie, but I think it's always been the understanding if he goes, she goes. Which is just as well, because, nobody's really taken to her Doctor. Most of that's not her fault. It's most of this right of the idiotic scripts. But you have to, it's the old thing of, new Doctor, new showrunner, and new writers. And with all three of these cases, it's going to be a case of building the fan base back up. To even think about getting back to where it was before, because it ain't coming back. You cheesed off too many people, and it will take years to get back a lot of the older fans of these franchises. Some never at all. They was like, no, forget it, we're out. Because the thing is that people don't quite realize when they're running these things, they think they're going to bring in a whole new crop of fans. It's like, no, who do you think brings in new fans to any franchise or any... Fine, whatever.
I turned on the lights.
Fine, I'm taping. Shut up. All right. Who brings in new fans? Old fans. Nobody just happens, very rarely does anybody just happen upon something like Star Trek all by themselves. It's always somebody, hey, here's something, watch this. Here's a movie I really like. Take a look at this. Here's a show you got to check out. Nobody's just channel surfing, totally ignorant. Oh, what's this all about? Oh, that's a weird looking ship. It's like when Kathy's, when the originally Galaxy's Edge was going to be, based on Tatooine. That's only going to be a bunch of 50-year-olds going. We want people than the newer fans. You ignorant twat. Who do you think is going to come to these parks, bring their family, and manufacture a bunch of new fans? It's us 50-year-old farts who come in and pay and buy the merchandise and want to gobble down those member berries. Who want to walk around Tatooine and hit the cantina and listen to that idiotic band, and see the Millennium Falcon with a round dish, Check out Docking Bay, 94, whatever.
Yeah, actually, that's how it came into Torchwood fandom. It was like I didn't know nothing about Torchwood and just happened to pick up a set of Children of Earth at the library.
You're weird.
Well, I wanted to check it out.
Well, but did you know anything was connected with Doctor Who at all?
No, I didn't.
Well, again, you're weird.
I didn't even know about Captain
Again,
Jack.
you were weird. Okay, come on. Stop undermining my video. No. But yeah, the whole thing was. I'm going to do this all over again. You don't knock it off. But yeah, that's the thing. It's with the exception of My Strange Wife. It's going to be older fans that bring in the newer ones. And they keep the franchise alive by buying the stuff and and going to conventions, holding conventions. That's one thing that's been obliterated with people like Creation. It's like most of the conventions were run by the fans, mainly because they're run out of all the old line book literary conventions. That's a fact that get kind of overlooked. It's like all these Trekkies underfoot at Worldcons. Why don't they go to their own convention? Hey, not a bad idea. We will. Bye. But yeah, they can be fixed. Okay. It's going to take work. They're not going to turn around on a dime, and they'll probably never get back to where they were. And whoever gets put in charge of these things is going to be apologizing for the next 10 years at least.
20.
In some cases 20. And again, none of it's going to happen until the people who are currently in charge are gone. And the people they brought in are gone. And you're replaced by people who know what the hell they're doing. In the case of Doctor Who, it's going to. Russell T Davies and Stephen Moffat apparently made no real secret. They want back. They want control of the show again, and they've got a better track record to back it up with. So I think and I'm pretty sure the BBC will be the first one to try this because they're too dependent on that show working. When the ratings actually drop between Countryfile and then back, I think Antiques Roadshow. Follow, and there's a noticeable drop during the hour that Doctor Who is on, and you see a corresponding rise in like ice skating over on ITV. Yeah, you got a problem there. And all these three of these things, merchandise has always been the big supplement to the income streams for these shows, and none of it's moving. These idiots have managed to do the impossible. They've killed off major revenue streams for these shows. Star Trek merchandise is practically non-existent. Certainly non-existent with the current shows. All you're going to see out in stores is going to be those Discovery DVD sets at like Walmart. That's it. There's no toys. There's no shirts. No hats or whatever. The only stuff out there is like Eagle Moss, and that's a little on the high end, low production runs, and the books. But even then, I haven't really seen many Star Trek novels out, not at Walmart.
Well,
you got to go to Barnes and Noble or something.
I think the one I bought was on Amazon. Actually.
Yeah, it's used.
And that was because it was Dayton's.
Yeah, well, because we know the author. So, But Star Wars merchandise, it's like it used to be an entire aisle. You know, made used to be at like Walmart, they'd be an entire aisle of Star Wars. Now it's like one section of an aisle. Could fit all the Star Wars stuff in there with a few empty pegs. The rest of it's taken up. The half of the aisle is like Marvel or DC stuff, you know. The other half is other stuff, you know. Like one tiny section now. And it's not surprising to see all, you know, half the stuff on clearance. And of course, Doctor Who. That's like, you know, the Jodie figures don't sell. It's like, you know, it's killed off the merchandise sales for Doctor Who, and BBC Worldwide is like, you know, what the hell happened? So they could do all the happy. Oh wait, no, it's a great success. Bull. Okay, for one thing, Doctor Who, at least we got ratings numbers to look at that one. They've lost over half the audience. We can look at the overnight, so we can see the ratings drop from, you know, going into 7 o'clock, you know, and then boom, they went back up again with, you know, people like Fiona Bruce more than, you know, Jodie Whittaker. Okay. So yeah, and the box office revenue for Star Wars is, you know, because it made $1 billion, it should have made $2 billion. By all rights, the last movie of the Skywalker saga barely limps across the $1 billion mark when it should have made that opening weekend at least.
And they made Rey a Palpatine.
I know, it's like, you know, and I have gone through the Colin Trevorrow script, and, you know, much better, far less insulting for one thing. But I think at this point it's easier just like Shatter is just decanonize the entire trilogy. I mean, you can bring back the cast, give them all different characters, and just start over, and get the old gang back together, and just make a point. Yeah, okay, yeah, Leia died, and make that a bit of a point of friction between Luke and Han. That's the thing, you know. But bring them all back. Okay, you know, get that, you know. We'll buzz back on the Falcon one last time, because, you know, we've already got, you know, Peter Mayhew's handpicked successor to play Chewie. He was coached by Peter Mayhew on how to move like Chewie, so that's taken care of. We all do, dear. But yeah, it's just junk it, do it over. They've already lost, you know, they're still in the red on this, you know, of buying Lucasfilm in the first place. So yeah, it doesn't strike me as, you know, not much more of an expense. Just do them over. And again, Star Trek, don't necessarily have to junk it. Just declare this alternate timeline, just like, you know, JJ Trek. And that way, the people who like it, however much we may question their sanity and taste, they can still like it. Yeah. No one's saying you can't like it, but we're just saying why we don't like it, and why we question the judgment of anybody who does because of this. That's nothing. All you do is gripe. No, we point out problems, usually in a very exhaustive detail of problems. Like, you know, this, you know, like Renegade cut in his, you know, video put up recently about Generations. Really a good film. Only if you take it in isolation away from the rest of Star Trek, and you can't do it. It's a Star Trek movie. That makes it part of an ongoing series, movies included. And if you're going to be an ongoing series, I don't care what the setting is. This is not unique to just Star Trek or Star Wars or any show that wants to maintain any kind of continuity and consistency and integrity is going to have essentially a canon. This is the back history of this show. And you do not violate that, especially because then you're just throwing open the writers can do whatever the hell they want, you know, which is never a good thing. But you're also insulting the longtime viewers who pay attention to this stuff and who generally buy the merchandise, if there is any. Like, let's take Young and the Restless. If one day they decide it's rather problematic, Victor Newman being a crotchety old German guy, we're going to make him a happy 20-something Irishman.
Oh, sweet cheese.
Yeah. that won't last past the pitch stage, okay?
If they did that,
One thing,
I would stop watching.
well, it wouldn't even make it a film because Eric Braeden would step in and say, "No, not happening." He's backed off worse threats than that before on that show. But that's our thing. It's like you know, people point out like South Park or or The Simpsons or whatever. That's part of the joke. They're the exception to the rule type of thing. They're making a joke out of other shows' canon. Okay. That doesn't disprove the point. If anything, it's the exception that proves the rule. So South Park's not supposed to be a big injury show. They've been in, these kids have been in the 4th grade for 20 years. Kenny's died how many thousands of times? So, I know this, for one, there was one time where Kenny didn't die. And I got the end of the episode and then walked off and suddenly he's jumping up and down. He's still alive. They're poking fun of themselves for always killing off Kenny. This time they didn't. Hey, I'm alive. But again, if you're doing a somewhat serious show, you can't just say, "Well, canon doesn't matter." You do that, and then suddenly your show doesn't matter. Good luck trying to hold an audience with that. And so this twit Paul Cornell with Doctor Who. Now, the idea of canon finally going, you throw away canon, you no longer have a show, okay? If you can't handle that, try Sainsbury's for a job, okay? Let's see how you can handle this ringing up the produce, okay? Because you're definitely not a writer at that point. I've gone around with novel writers who don't like having to stick to canon. This is the universe, this is the sandbox you're in. This is your backstory. It's not, think of it, this is just your established backstory, okay? Now, if you really want to make your point, and this has to be in there, figure out a way to make it fit. Otherwise, write a different story, okay? If you can't make your, grand and glorious scheme fit within, say, Star Trek, you're writing the wrong damn story, okay? Either write your own setting where you can fit it in, or find another franchise, or just shut the hell up, okay? I'm getting tired of that, Frank. Anyway, I think that's probably enough there. So, PayPal, Patreon down below. And I'll probably prop it up somewhere at some point, but we have got at least another week here. Week and a half, maybe. Still waiting on my stimulus check. Make that another week on top of that. And we're, again, still waiting for word back from one of our 2 senators who we have sicked on the VA regarding getting a Section 8 voucher from the HUD-VASH program. So we can finally get into a place and start rebuilding our lives. Because I was trying to make a point on Facebook, and then Gabe Kerner, who we all, still kind of came back. Aren't you the one who's homeless and thinks Midnight's Edge is credibility? I'm still thinking about, I could come back with, and this from the recovering drug addict who has, list of personality orders a mile long, but I'm too classy for that. It's like, we're going to do that kind of game. Yeah, I know.
Not a good idea.
Whatever. Anyway, PayPal, Patreon down below. We'll catch you later.